How's everybody doing today? Now I got to go through the whole orientation thing. Reason why is because I got started late. Yes. So, welcome to Cup of Joe with Joe, Idaho Joe Live, your favorite garden gnome. Go ahead. You know the drill. There's my website. That's my fund. Go ahead, donate, please. That helps me continue to run for office. 30 days, man. 30 days. We're down to 3-0. 30 days before the election. So, like, share, comment. Right now, times are tough for everybody. So if you can't donate, again, please like, share, comment, get the word out. We do have a libertarian running for Congress, U.S. Congress. We would be the first libertarian elected to Congress. How does that sound? Right? Because let's admit it, right now, your other candidates aren't very libertarian. Just happens to be the case. We like liberty in Idaho. We like being able to do what we want to do. We do not like the government telling us how to run our business. We do not like the government's regulating our business. Because, let's admit it, some of us like to be carpenters. We don't like to be licensed through the state. We don't like to be licensed through a union. Not that unions are bad. I love locals. I do. I really do. They do have an awful lot of advantages, especially if they're locals. Not so big on the big ones, but the locals, freedom of association, right to collective bargaining, constitutional right. No matter what we've done in the past to break them, freedom of association, definitely. Love the unions. But at the same time, your freedom of association, we shouldn't have the state contracting, managing an awful lot of the industries that it does right now. Again, one of the reasons we talked about it yesterday, healthcare industry, the state regulates it out the yin yang. And because the state regulates the health industry out the yin yang, it's expensive. It's expensive, yeah, it's expensive. And because of all those regulations, it also costs the state significantly as well when it goes in and actually pays for a number of things that we continue to do. So, not only do they get guaranteed payment through the insurance plans and all of the rest of the regulation continues to drive up costs. So, if you're thinking about what's important in the state of Idaho, getting the government out of your day-to-day affairs, getting government out of the businesses affairs that you participate in every day. That is, get them out of the way you do your shopping. Free market, right? Get the government out of the way you do your shopping. Get the government out of the way you contract. Get the government out of who you can do business with. There's only one candidate for you, folks. Anyway, so one of the questions that actually had come up today. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now, this came in on my personal question, Idaho State University. Individual actually works. Where are we at, Amber? Anyway, she's interested in the Idaho State ballot. Okay, if your state can look at the Idaho State ballot, and I actually posted it here not that long ago, there is a topic that comes up on that. Let me go ahead and see if I can get it here. Okay, go in downloads because I actually want to go in and take a look at the PDF that I downloaded. There we go. And this is actually on page 2. Okay, so on mine, you go through, you take a look at a number of things. You know what? I think I can actually do this way. Let me see if I can do it this way. I want want that one. Yep. Okay. So I'm actually going to be able to share with you here right now. Let's go ahead and make this happen. That's the one I want right there. On that one and Chrome tab and that one. Okay, so Idaho, Precinct 2. You know, you go through and you go clear on down to the sample ballot. And one of the things we have down here is actually it's on page 3. Okay, so we have an Idaho constitutional amendment. This is HJR 4. Okay, shall Section 2, Article 3 of the Constitution and State Legislative Council statement meaning the purpose of this proposed amendment is to permanently set the number of senators in the Idaho legislature as well as the number of legislative districts in Idaho at 35. Okay, there are twice as many representatives as senators, which this amendment would not change. 1992, there have been 35 districts and senators, but the Idaho Constitution permits as few as 30 and as many as 35 districts and senators, with the number determined during redistricting. Process of redrawing, if this amendment is adopted, the number of districts and senators would be fixed at 35 and could not be changed during redistricting. Okay. That explains some things, folks. Hey, Tim. Thanks for stepping in. We're going to get to some great things a little bit later on. I just want to go ahead and answer Amber's question here about District 2. Well, about HJR 4. So the thing is with HJR 4, you start taking a look at what's going on with this. And the problem really is they want to set it at 35. Okay, so right now, each legislative district has somewhere around 12 to 16, which is interesting. District 14 actually has like 21,000 registered voters registered voters in that district. It happens to be one of the highest density, which was really problematic this last session. District 14 had an awful lot of influence over things that went down, and there was a large influx of people that moved in there in the last 10 years. So like 21,000. That's another interesting thing. Our Libertarian Party chair is actually in District 14. So she's one of those who's moved in. She'll be one of 22,000 votes, whereas there are other districts right now where like District 22, which I think is out in Kuna, which have like 12,000. So literally, the U.S. mandate, one person, one vote, that was pushed out into the states. And this is ironic because the states have the Electoral College, which they created as part of the Republic. Each state gets 2 senators. Each state gets a number of representatives based on the population distribution. Okay. Now, used to be a lot of the states and their assemblies and their legislative branches, their senator allocation would be by county, and then the representative or their house would be represented by a population. So 35 legislative districts, 30. Not that long ago, there was a suit that went through the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court looked at the rules and said, you know what? Every one of the state has to be one vote. You know, the states have to be run under the guise of a democracy, representative democracy, one person, one vote, rather than under the guise of a republic. which makes it real funny when Idaho state legislatures say Idaho is a republic. No. The Supreme Court of the United States decided the law of the land was each state is a representative democracy, one person, one vote, which made them change the number of senators from 45 or 41 per county down to 35 to match the legislative districts. Now, the idea with the range from 30 to 35 is they want to go ahead and fix it at 35. And that's the maximum number of allowable rather than fewer. This gives greater representation to the outlying areas, which I understand. We don't want the counties of Ada and Canyon and Kootenai to decide all the laws for the entirety of the state. There's right now like 17 of the 35 legislative districts already, 4 counties, like I said, represent 17 districts. It's actually going to change, but the thing is if you drop it down to 30, the halfway point would be 15 and 15. They like 35. It's an odd number. That helps give them the 50% plus one on ballot initiatives and a number of things like that, which they weren't able to get past last year. So this is one of their interesting little workarounds. They're allowed to continue to maintain 35 legislative districts rather than bringing it down to 30. I think this is actually a decent compromise from a libertarian perspective because this does give better representation. This gives a better cross-section. The Republican-heavy legislature, the Republican-heavy legislature saw this as a way to continue to maintain the stronger conservative representation in the state of Idaho. Basically, it keeps our legislature and our state senate red. Personally, I don't think Idaho's as red as an awful lot of them like to think. I think we're going to make some interesting headway as far as gold goes this year. But as far as our legislature goes, after the 2020 session, the only way they're going to be able to maintain the red after the 2020 census goes in and does the remapping is if they maintain the higher rather than the lower number. Just the way that's going to work out. So I understand why they did it. 50-50. Yeah. I don't see a problem with voting yes. Honestly, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference 2020 and beyond. Enough of our legislators did. Yeah. I don't know. I think fixed at 35 may be a good plan. That also simplifies the issue for the commission, for the redistricting commission. And that means they can't look at alternative maps of 30 or 31 or any of the other numbers. They have to look specifically at breaking down the Idaho population distribution by exactly 35 districts. Yeah, I can see it saving some time. See it handling some other issues. 35 is good for me. Just a thought, anyway. So, Tim, how are things going up in New York right now? Upstate, God, I love upstate. I was up there, Fort Drum, New York, for about, 6 years? Matter of fact, that was my first assignment right after I got done with Korea. I arrived at Fort Drum late 2001. 2002, I was trading Fort Drum for Afghanistan. But yeah, upstate New York, a lot of the places, Lowville up there, it's all farm country. Who knew, right? New York is more than New York City. But Lowville, Watertown. Watertown's actually pretty big. Watertown gets close to about Boise was when I left Boise. Um, yeah, but just about anything. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. But yeah, upstate New York. Anything north of Syracuse, upstate. Beautiful country up there. What's keep drawing a blank on the town in New York where they did the Winter Olympics. It's funny that you think of New York, but New York, because it's between, it actually touches the Canadian border as well as the Atlantic Ocean. You got the Appalachian Trail, cuts right through New York. All mountains. Lake Placid, yes, Lake Placid. If you ever get a chance to drive through Lake Placid, New York, dude, it is theme town. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce, when they went in and they set up Lake Placid for the Winter Olympics when they went through, basically made the entire town look like Swiss chalets. You can't drive through without, just thinking that the town was specifically created for an Olympic event. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's amazing. It's well lit. It's clean. Lake Placid is beautiful, but it is not what you think of as New York by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, amazing country up there. But definitely thank you for joining me, Tim. So we already covered the Idaho issue with our constitutional amendment. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with state constitutional amendments, folks, Idaho's gone through like 150 of them since, we were founded as a state. And that's how often a constitutional amendment happens in the state of Idaho. It's like every other election, there's a constitutional amendment that goes through. Our acceptance of the lottery here in the state of Idaho was a constitutional amendment pushed through by James Risch, of all people, which was interesting because after he made the big push to get the constitutional amendment through because the lottery was going to provide for education funds, they turned around and dumped all the lottery money into the general fund. Yeah, go figure. Another boondoggle that ended up happening. But that's what we do in legislation when you don't have ethical parties fulfilling the promises that they made, or at least doing their best. But so constitutional amendments happen all the time in the state of Idaho. State constitution, it's a little bit harder because we actually require all four branches of the government. Yes, there are four branches. Constitutional amendment in the state of Idaho requires all four branches to participate and approve of any of the constitutional. It's for the kids. We're doing it for the kids. Save the children. Yeah, I know, Tim. We use the kids to justify an awful lot of sins of government. And usually the kids are the ones hurt the most when the government sins. Government says, we're doing it for the kids. We're doing it for the kids. And as soon as the laws are in place, the kids are the first ones hurt. State violence affects children first and foremost. Remember that, folks. Now, most of us who are older, most of us who are grown, we can survive the state violence. Yes, state violence has caused trauma in a lot of us. State violence, the poverty draft that sends us over to fight wars in other nations has caused trauma in a lot of us. Some of us have the resiliency. No, none of us have the resiliency. All of us come away from, state violence with trauma. We don't get away from it. As kids, as adults, state violence causes trauma. It's bad. Uh, but yeah, we did it for the kids. We did it for the kids. But yeah, so lotteries are constitutional amendments in the state of Idaho all the time. 150 of them in the intervening period since we've become a state. So it's not really. Oh, yeah, I was talking 4 branches of government. Yes, the 4 branches of government. Hey, we have the executive branch. It's our governors. That's the president, right? Yeah, that's branch 1. Branch 2. Yeah, we'll do this because I don't actually want to do the other thing. Branch 2 is our legislators. Okay, that's our state legislators, our state assemblies, our House and Senate. The 2 houses of the legislature. And 3. Okay, 3. I'm not doing that thing, dudes. Okay, 3. Our courts. Okay, our courts take a look at things and determine whether or not they're appropriate within the Constitution. Okay, our state Supreme Court goes in and says, well, is the legislation appropriate for our state constitution? Does it match our state constitutional requirements? Like, did the state meet the constitutional requirements to fund public education? Now, this is interesting. The reason why is because the Supreme Court of the state of Idaho has decided consistently that the state of Idaho has failed to meet the constitutional obligation of funding public education in the state of Idaho repeatedly. However, the state of Idaho is the one responsible for fining the state of Idaho for failure to fund education. Sort of renders the Supreme Court of the state of Idaho as moot in a lot of cases. Yeah, weird how that works. But Supreme Court of the United States, U.S. House, U.S. Senate, the 3 checks and balances, okay, of the executive branch, the courts, and the legislators. The ones who write laws, the ones who enforce the laws, the one who determine whether or not the laws are actually legal. The legislation. Is the legislation constitutional? Is the legislation trying to supersede the law of the land, which it can't? The United States Constitution is the law of the land. Each state has their own constitution, which again is the law of the land. The 4th branch, the people. We, the people. Idaho actually requires that we, the people, vote on every constitutional change in the state of Idaho. As a general rule, most of the constitutional changes are good, which is why we've successfully changed it 150 times. Every one of those required a vote by the people. That is you and I. Now, there's a certain requirement for that 4th branch of government when it comes to constitutional amendments of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, Bill of Rights, it was ratified by, I think 12 of 13 states back in the day. Finally got ratified by all 13, because these were solid. Okay, the states have to ratify, which in turn affects, on down. So the states have a say in what the federal government does. Anytime the federal government wants to do an amendment to the United States Constitution, it requires participation of each one of the states. And each one of the states can elect representatives to their House as well as governors that can say, based on the will of the people in my state, that's not going to happen. Not true. They only need like 37. Because because like 66% of the states need to actually ratify it in order for a constitutional amendment in the U.S. to approve. But the same thing carries down to the state constitutions in an awful lot of places, in that the state constitution has to be ratified by the people of the state, usually with a 2/3 majority. Reasonably good plan. Reasonably good plan. However, legislation only requires 50% and the governor to sign off on it, which, if you have an awful lot of people who are in government who are corrupt, who are willing to accept payments from big corporations and other things, you end up with bogus laws that make things easier for corporations and harder for people. Happens everywhere. It's the reason why things are so miserable in California. It's the reason why things are getting miserable in the state of Idaho. Yeah, Idaho does have an awful lot of freedoms. Reason why is because, usually at least half of our legislators were actually born and raised in Idaho, and they understand what the Idaho way is. The irony is only about half of our legislators were born and went to college in the state of Idaho. Yeah, so when a legislator comes out and says it's the Idaho way, dude, double check him, because at least half of them that like to come out and say we're doing this the Idaho way, they weren't born and raised in Idaho. They weren't even educated in the state of Idaho. The 50 years that Jim Risch has been involved in politics in the state of Idaho started the day he graduated from law school at ISU. He wasn't, when Jimmy actually gets, Jimmy, come on. Jimmy Rhodes, I sat down and talked with him for 4 hours on issues like this. Jim Risch, 50 years in Idaho politics. He started as an Idaho politician with less than 4 years living in the state. He basically showed up. He passed law school. He passed the bar. And boom, he was elected a district attorney. He's been in elected office since the day he graduated law school in the state of Idaho. And he only came to Idaho to go to law school. Before that, he was from Wisconsin. But, that's half of our Idaho state legislators right now. Half of them. Of the 70, 35 of them grew up, went to school out of state. They grew up out of state before moving to Idaho to become state legislators. So when an Idaho state legislature says it's the Idaho way, double check him, because chances are they probably have no idea what the Idaho way is. Man. Yeah. So, double check them, folks. Absolutely. This is Saturday, so you guys get me for a whole hour. Yes. Please, come on. Keep asking questions, folks. Keep asking questions. I know you're out there watching. I got somebody out in Twitch. Dude, I actually got 3 visiting me from Twitterland. Again, thank you, Tim, for actually interacting. Love that. Any of the rest of you watching from Twitter, please comment. I am running for Congress, so, literally things that would affect the entirety of the United States, not just Idaho, are up for grabs here. My personal libertarian philosophy, especially as far as the anti-federalism goes, all of it up for grabs. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. I know there's an awful lot of people right now that are looking at the libertarian platform and going, I don't like what they're going to do to my Medicaid. I don't want them going in on day one and cutting my Medicaid. I don't want them going in on day one cutting my Medicare. Larry Sharp has talked about this an awful lot. Judge Gray has talked about this an awful lot. Most of us are pragmatic libertarians. We are. We understand there are certain things about U.S. society right now that we simply cannot cut, and expect a peaceful transition. You know, we have an awful lot of hardcore libertarians in the party. Most of them don't run for office for obvious reasons, because they are hardcore. They literally look at something and go, what? My humanity? I got none. They look at it and go, nope. There's only one way to do a libertarian society, and that's my way. Oh, yes. I got a good one for that one. Let me see if I can find it here. This one's my favorite. I've actually used it like about 4 or 5 times in the last couple of days. Here it is. Let me see if I can open it with yes. You guys are going to love this one. You really are. See that? You see that? Libertarian meter. 3 beers later, helicopter rides for all y'all. Yeah, we actually got libertarians with that sort of mentality. Most of them are in the party. They don't run for office, or they're not successful in running for office. Reason why is because they do come across with that hardcore mentality that says, there's only one way to do libertarianism. Okay. Larry Sharpe, Judge Gray, Spike Cohen, Joe Jorgensen. Okay. Literally, these are all pragmatic libertarians, very much like myself. We understand that we need to create a path to the final goal. We can't just walk in on day one, and make a libertarian society, where everybody's pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. We got to create a society that enables bootstrapping. Okay, we need to be able to enable that. And you don't enable that, simply by saying this is the way it is day one. Now, there are certain things we do need to do, okay, as far as day one items go. First, day one is bring our troops home. Joe Jorgensen agrees. Day one, bring our troops home. We have very little reason for having troops in 150 countries around the world. Very, very little reason. We're continuing to throw good money after bad by maintaining a force presence in those 150 nations. Okay, that's going to save us a lot of money. Bring our troops home. It's going to create an awful lot of safety for us as well. Reason why is because we're no longer agitating other nations. We're no longer creating situations in other nations that require people to come to America to seek refuge from our foreign policies. Day one, bring our troops home. Okay. Day one, also day one, is decriminalization of drugs. Yeah, now, admittedly, aside from treaties that require us to maintain a force presence in country, and some of these treaties are treaties like what we have with Germany, what we have with France and Italy, our NATO treaties, our NATO alliances, aren't something that we're going to be able to go in on day one and just say, well, screw the treaty. I know it says we have to maintain a minimum troop presence in Germany in order to maintain the treaty. And well, those treaties get renewed, and altered and changed and all of that fun stuff. But aside from those, of the 150 nations, most of those nations, the troop presence is not being maintained by a treaty. The troop presence is being maintained through the authorization of use of military force from 2001 and 2003. Okay, now the 2001, that was the invasion of Afghanistan. That is the war on terror. 2003, that was the invasion of Iraq. Now, we got some National Defense Authorization Acts that have changed the terms of those initial authorization of use of military force, allowing expansion into those other 150 countries for different reasons. But 2001 authorization use of military force, in 2003 will go a long ways repealing those. And that's the thing, you elect enough people into Congress, you can repeal those authorization use of military forces and force the president, whoever that happens to be, to bring our troops home. Okay? If Jo Jorgensen gets elected, those authorization use of military force is at her discretion. In every one of those countries that is currently occupied via a UMF 2001 and 2003, come home. Overnight. She can do that. Overnight. Bring our troops home. Overnight. Day one. Which is another thing. We go into decriminalization. Now, the executive branch can basically look at it and tell the DEA to stand down on drug enforcement. Congress is going to fight her on that. Which is another reason why you need enough libertarian-minded individuals who want to end the war on drugs in the United States, in there, basically to repeal the Substance Control Act. Okay, now, let's go back to Russell Brand here. Russell Brand is one of those. Cigarettes are not the gateway. Alcohol is not the gateway. Marijuana is not the gateway. Okay, we all know what the gateway drug is. The gateway drug is trauma. Most users, most abusers, most addicts do not use any one of those if it's not for trauma. That's how they cope with childhood trauma. That's how they cope with post-traumatic stress. That's how they cope with sexual trauma. And there is no gateway drug. The gateway is universally trauma. You look at anybody who's an addict, okay, there is trauma in their history. We keep trying to treat the addiction. We keep forgetting to treat the trauma that causes the addiction. You address the issues of the trauma, you solve the addiction. It's the way it is. In the meantime, we have black markets for some of the best trauma treatment drugs in the United States. Marijuana. Okay. Yeah, and there's other ones too. We've determined that Molly is a trauma treatment drug. Microdosing on LSD is a trauma healing drug. Mushrooms, trauma healing drug. All of these exist on the Substance Control Act. Every one of them that we have access to, we only have access to through a black market. 2/3 of the states in the United States right now have some sort of medical marijuana legalization. Okay. Admittedly, the way some of them have done it, it's still cheaper to get through the black market than it is through the legitimate state-run market. But the other problem is marijuana is still Schedule 1 on the Federal Substance Control Act. Literally, the president can decide to start enforcing the laws on marijuana again, in every one of those state dispensaries can be subject to a raid and shutdown. Matter of fact, most of those dispensaries right now have brought on crime. Reason why is because they can't use the banks to assist with business. They have to do all their business in cash. Okay, could you imagine trying to figure out how to do your money run at the end of the day when literally your entire clientele for the entire day had to do it in cash? You know, and you're getting ready to deposit it in the bank, and you got to walk out of the store with more than 100 grand in cash. And the security for most of those places when it comes time to do the run. And, you know, federal civil asset forfeiture. The DEA can go in and raid a dispensary on any given day. And all the cash in that dispensary, federal civil asset forfeiture, because they're in violation of the Federal Substance Control Act. Yeah. Obama and Trump have been nice so far in that they haven't enforced it. You know, the number of places where it's occurred is entirely at the discretion of the, you know, drug enforcement agencies in the state. We've all seen it. DEA goes, you know, dispensaries have their own cameras for their own security reason. A lot of the tapes are stored off-site, remote cameras. DEA agents come in, raid the place. They take all the money. They take all the drugs. They'll eat gummies on site. And it's been done, folks. So you need some libertarian-minded individuals going in and basically, you know, Federal Substance Control Act. It needs to be repealed. It's the only way we're actually going to decriminalize those drugs that facilitate trauma healing so that we can actually get people off of drugs. And trauma is the gateway. Heal the trauma. Most people who are using it recreationally are self-treating. Alcoholics are self-treating trauma. Okay, let's do a better job at addressing the issues, not addiction, trauma healing. But in order to do that, we need to go in and we need to end the war on drugs. We need to give people access to those drugs, again, that facilitate trauma healing. Marijuana, LSD, mushrooms. Folks, it's documented. They work. And as long as they're on the Federal Substance Control Act, the only people who can sell derivatives of that are Big Pharma. And as we've learned, most of the replacements, most of the, what is it they call it when they do the pseudo, the synthetic, okay? The synthetics of all of those drugs, bad. Synthetic marijuana has yet to actually create the same situation, you know, create the same cannabinoids as the homegrown stuff. You know, synthetic, well, LSD, it's all chemistry. That's all synthetic to begin with anyway. The other thing is, you know, we need to go through mushrooms. You know, ergo. Yeah, how many of you remember ergo and its role? You know, but literally, we can grow our own medicine. Legitimately, we can grow the medicine that will heal us from trauma. All we need to do is clean up the federal regulations. But day one, bring our troops home. Day two, decriminalize drugs and the war on drugs. Or, well, actually, we can do both on day one. Um, and corporate welfare. Woo! Yes. Okay. That one might take a hot week. Legitimately. Now, we can end the outright bailouts. Okay. There are no bailouts in free markets. Okay. You assumed a risk going into business. If you didn't plan for that risk, that's on you. Okay. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and there are no bailouts in free markets. You know, get your friends and family to support you. It's the way it's always been. You don't go to the government, you don't go to the collective and say, hey, I screwed up, bail me out. I need you to bail out my multi-trillion a year business. Dude, if you're making trillions a year, you're making more than the United States government, honestly. Why you go to somebody who is even worse at managing money than you to ask for a bailout? Yeah. No, libertarian platform, the bailouts stop. The bailouts, corporate industry, corporate risk, there are no bailouts in free markets. And it's time we stop pretending there are. American Keynesianism, yeah, we got to bring that to an end, folks. We really do. There we go. But yeah, ending the corporate bailouts. Reason why is because bailouts also include the tax code. Okay, we can end the bailouts. A libertarian Congress can literally look at things and go, you know what, Big Pharma, you screwed the pooch. Deal with it. You know what, auto industry, you screwed the pooch. Deal with it. We aren't in, the U.S. government should not be in the business of bailing out significant industries. Banks, dude, your job is managing money. You're literally going to go to the one organization that is the worst in managing money to ask to, never mind. Completely understand why you do that. The reason why is because the one organization that is the worst at managing money doesn't understand the consequences of giving you that money. But you do. You understand darn well the consequences of the United States government giving you that money for the bailout. That's why you're a bank. And the bailout. That's literally going to take a hot minute. Reason why is because we do have to go in. It's not just stopping the bailouts. We have to reform the tax code. And who remembers the news article this last session? It was the first time ever that the richest quintile in the United States actually paid a lower tax rate than middle-class America. And once you added in all of the taxes and all of the tax deductions, it was assessed that middle America paid roughly a 25% tax rate on average, while the richest quintile in America paid like 21 or 22%. Okay. Now, mind you, they're still enjoying the benefits of company perks. Okay. That Rolls Royce they drive, that Cadillac they drive, that's a company asset. It's not coming out of their income. And a lot of these people are making somewhere in the neighborhood of, 6 figures, 200 grand a year. Okay. And that's the direct monetary compensation that they will be paying taxes on. In the meantime, most of these people are enjoying the benefits of company assets, which were all tax write-offs because it's part of doing company business. This is the company car. This is the company Learjet. This is the company yacht. You and I don't get to write a yacht off as a company expense. You and I don't get to write our car off as a company expense. We literally need to go in and fix the tax code. Because if you really take a look at the total compensation a lot of these individuals in the top quintile enjoy, they paid significantly lower than 20%. Significantly. So, yeah, we can stop bailouts on day one. What we are going to have to take a lot of time to do is go in and rewrite the tax code. And right now, literally, if we were to go in and just go into the IRS on day one and say, you know what? All of those loopholes in the tax code, all of that standard, deductions. I mean, you took accounting in college. Remember taking accounting in college, the depreciation of value, what depreciates, what increases, the fact that a lot of companies, currently own property. I mean, Jimmy Buffett actually made an awful lot of money on this in the early days. And he went in and he took a look at companies with assets. Assets that on the books didn't improve in value. Now, these companies didn't understand the value of what it was they owned. Okay. Georgia Pacific owned land. Lots and lots and lots of land. A lot of it through the railroads. These railroads own land in districts where property values had gone up a lot. So on the books, because land never appreciates on the books, the value of these companies never improved on the books. So when Jimmy went in and invested on these, because people were looking at book value and with the investment, he went in, invested in these companies, and then he convinced them to sell off a lot of this land that never appreciated. And you got 100 square miles of land that is railroad land just outside of LA. On the books, it still has the same value it did 100 years ago. It was worth a lot more than that when they turned around and sold it to LA for development. Big money. That's how Warren Buffett made his money. He went in and he looked at those hidden values that don't appreciate on the books. Of course, he's gone in and done that to such a degree that that particular option to get wealthy again is now gone. But, he still tries to do that. There's a few places that are still tucked away and hidden away. But, we need to go in and we need to fix the tax code. And honestly, if we can just go in and do a flat tax, eliminate those write-offs, eliminate those company, if a company buys a Learjet, it's an increase in value for the company. Tax it. If a company buys a yacht for entertainment purposes, tax it. Whether we set it up as an income tax, is in their total value and assets increased, or, something else that goes on, sales tax for the purchase of it. We need to actually start doing that. We tax your income, whether you spend it on a car or not. Why aren't we doing that for corporations? Now, I know an awful lot of libertarians are out there going, well, you're still taxing. Taxation is theft. Yes, it is. Taxes aren't something we're going to get rid of on day one, folks. Not with $27 trillion in debt. Thank you, Republicans. Thank you, Democrats. That debt isn't going away. The question is do we pay off the debt this generation so that our kids can live tax-free? Or do we just pass the debt on to them? Well, as a libertarian, we sort of got to suck up the way our parents screwed up. Because we need to fix the problem for our kids. And we can't keep kicking the can down the road. So until we actually go in and we fix the situation. Now, the thing is the way we set it up, and that's one of the reasons why it's going to take a hot week to actually go in and fix all of this stuff. Right? Tim's right. 27 trillion took both parties to make happen. Okay? It took both of them. You don't get 27 trillion in debt, by being all Democrat or by being all Republican. 27 trillion in debt took bipartisanship to happen. Joe Jorgensen says it perfectly. 27 trillion in debt. Republicans want more war machines. Yes. Republicans want more war machines because strong military is strong defense, and we're support our troops. Well, they don't support our troops. Republican presidents have generally been the ones that have given the troops the lowest cost of living and allowance increases, historically. But they love giving the military-industrial complex money. We want more war machines. More war machines. They are Democrats. We want more social services. Okay, we need more welfare. We need more welfare. You know what ends up happening? We get both. It takes bipartisanship. Democrats approve the war machine so that the Republicans will approve more social services. Bipartisanship, 27 trillion in debt. Okay, now, how do we do this? How do we do this? That's why it's going to take a hot week to figure out how to undo the tax code, man. Literally. We still got the debt to pay off. Okay. We need to stop spending the money. If we don't stop spending the money, we won't have enough surplus to pay off the debt. So where we got to go in now. So we understand that there are burdens on tax revenue. There are things that the United States has decided it needs to pay for. Well, okay, that's not wrong. The United States hasn't decided. Our representatives have decided. Our representatives who are strongly influenced by lobbyist organizations that continue to pay their bills for running for Congress and the Senate. Okay. These people have decided that the government needs to keep spending money. Now, if we don't stop spending the money, the debt's going to continue to increase. The bipartisan debt is going to continue to increase. So what we need to do is we need to cut spending. We got a couple of ways that we can go in and do that. We got some big ticket items that will go in and reduce that spending. Yeah, our military-industrial complex. We cut spending by bringing our troops home. Okay, prison industrial complex. We can cut spending by stop sending people to prison. A lot of nonviolent crimes out there that we are sending people to prison for. The war on drugs is a violation of human rights because it sends people to prison. 13th Amendment, repackaging of slavery in America. We lease out penal labor to institutions, to corporations, while we still pay to house prisoners that are living in a substandard wage economy. Yeah. Oh, what is it? We have. Okay. You're actually going to make me look this up. Okay. How many prisoners does the United States have? Okay. In the United States, incarceration in the United States right now, we have. Oh, geez. We have between 2 million and 2.5 million people in prison in the United States right now. Okay, now keep in mind about 7.75 million, 750,000 are in jail. Okay, so 750,000 in jail, 225. So that's 1.5 million in prison. Okay. Jail, we have the work release. Prisons, we have work release. All of which, are still continuing to pay fees into the prison system, which we are paying. So that's a revenue system there in and of itself. That is literally theft of a different kind. Jails, prisons, 1.5 million in prison right now. Under the 13th Amendment, that is authorized state slavery. Now, there are some states right now, our state of Idaho, our prison labor actually is authorized to go out and work in one of the beef processing plants here in the state of Idaho. Yes, beef processing in the state of Idaho is done by prison labor at $9 an hour. Think that one through, folks. And this is slaughterhouse work for $9 an hour. Slaughterhouses happen to be one of the most dangerous jobs in America. One, because you're dealing with livestock. Two, you're dealing with very, very sharp blades. They're getting paid $9 an hour in order to do it. Literally, if that was a union job, that's $20, $25 an hour. Our beef processing in the state of Idaho is getting over big time. Just a thought for you guys out there. But regardless, we're still looking at, 1.2, 1.5 million. Okay, that is 325 and 350. So it's about 0.3% of the U.S. population. 0.245. But that's just who we have in prison and in jails. Yeah, slave labor, it's legitimate. Mass incarceration in the United States, it's legitimate. Mass incarceration in the United States, enabled by Joe Biden. Mass incarceration in the United States, supported by Kamala Harris. I don't care what you say, man. Those two have built their political careers on mass incarceration. They are not going to change that in the executive branch. No, they're not. Don't vote for them, folks. They're probably the most anti-libertarian candidates of all. I understand they talk a good game. They're promising to change their ways. I don't know how you can change your ways after 50 years, especially when, as a presidential candidate, you walk into a room and say nothing will essentially change. Yeah. Just the way it is, man. Just the way it is. But we end the war on drugs. That puts more money back into the economy. And the reason why is because a lot of those jobs, right? Most empathetic authoritarian, we're doing it for your own good. Sending you to prison for your own good. That will be the way they phrase it. You need to hit rock bottom to understand. We're going to help you hit rock bottom. You're going to prison for your own good. Yeah, I wonder how many people had drugs planted on them that heard that. By the police officers and the district attorneys and the social workers. Sending you to prison for your own good. No. And prison just adds to the complex trauma. There's a reason why more people getting out of prison are addicts than went into prison. They come out addicts so that the authoritarians can send them back. Because there's a slave labor pool. And addicts work for cheap. Yeah. No. If you haven't been paying attention, I'm not a big fan of the war on drugs. I'm not a big fan of the 13th Amendment and the way it repackaged slavery in America. I'm not a fan of mass incarceration. I'm not a fan. Give me a moment here. My campaign manager is asking me whether or not I did the things I should have been doing. So it's that time of year. There's an awful lot of questionnaires that come out. We do our best to fill them out. We do our best to actually return them so that most people actually get a chance to sit down and read our positions and understand our positions. Okay. Now, this is one of those things that I actually learned while talking with our Democrat candidate who went out for lieutenant governor 2 years ago. Hey, Kristen Cullum, I love you. If you're listening, if you're watching, I love you. Reason why is because Kristen Cullum is a military veteran. Okay, she was a major before she got out of the service. She went into IT. She's done an awful lot of businesses since then, and right now she is enjoying being in retirement, enjoying being out of politics. She is hiking everywhere and loving life right now. But one of the things that she did was a statewide tour. She went and visited every county in every district in the state of Idaho and sat down and talked with people in the district to understand, what it was. And one of the things she came away from in her whirlwind tour was politicians are the problem. The Democratic Party policies are the problem. The Republican Party policies are the problem. People come down to Boise and they do legislation in the Boise Capitol, in the Capitol building. People go back east. They go to Washington, D.C. to create policy for the United States. Those policies that we create, the legislation that gets written, hurt Americans. They do. What we've decided to do through the political process, by who we elect, by who we vote. The last 50 years of bipartisanship in the United States between the Republicans and the Democrats has hurt America, has hurt Idahoans. Until we can actually go in and undo all of that damage, undo all of that trauma we've created for America, and give the people back their voice, we're going to continue to have problems here in America. So, been running here for a little bit longer than an hour, and I'm going to have to check in with my campaign manager because she's doing very good things. Yes, Idaho is opening up. The governor went ahead and moved us to stage 4, despite the fact that we are a much larger. But the thing is, we know the deal. Okay? Stage 4 is actually a libertarian mode with regards to COVID responses in the state of Idaho. Okay? There are people out there who do not understand epistemology. I need to be careful. What is the study of drug transference? What is Dr. Fauci? Immunology, epidemiology. Anyway. Anyway, there's a career field out there that has to deal with the communicability of diseases. Okay, Dr. Fauci is guilty of disinformation. Okay, we have a lot of career fields that are involved in hygiene. There's a lot of very solid, very well-established advice out there on hygiene and how diseases are transferred. Administrations and politicians all across the United States have gone a long way to contributing to this mis and disinformation about how the coronavirus spreads and how it affects people. Okay. Of course, the libertarian platform is we make sure the best information is available. We get the input from a number of different sources so that we understand what works and what doesn't work. Hygiene works, folks. Washing your hands works, folks. Masks are not 100% foolproof. However, condoms prevent pregnancies. They do. Masks slow down the rate of transmission. They do. Condoms aren't 100%. Masks aren't 100%. But they do slow things down. Abstinence. Stay at home when you can. Prevents the spread. Prevents pregnancy. Come on, folks. There are things that work. Ultimately, your risk management profile, what you do to prevent or slow the spread of the coronavirus, is an individual choice. Now, to the best of your ability, your risks are your risks. If you catch it, do your best not to spread it to anybody else. It's one of the reasons why they suggest quarantine once you catch it. Of course, coronavirus is weird because there's an awful lot of people who are asymptomatic, which means that, yeah, you know the drill. Thing is there are things that work, that are out there. Do your own risk management. Stop listening to politicians. Go to an esthetician you know. They understand hygiene. They understand disease transference. This thing I like about Ginger, she's my campaign manager. She's also an esthetician. She went through cosmetology school. She's also done other education on disease prevention. Because she has to. That's her job. That's how she maintains her certification. Wash your hands, people. But yeah. But my point is, Idaho's opened up, which means we can start holding in-person events again. Go to bars. Hold indoor events. All of that good stuff. Yes. We got good stuff going on, folks. Love you guys. Peace. Remember, family, friends, community. Together we can change America. Love you. Oh, yep. Like, share, comment. Talk to your friends about me. Spread the word. And not just here in Idaho. Libertarianism all across America. Right, Tim? We need to spread the word. Libertarian everywhere. Tim's from upstate New York, by the way. Scenic upstate. It's gorgeous up there, Tim. But yeah, we got libertarians in just about every state. Joe Jorgensen is on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Vote, folks. Vote libertarian. Get the government out of your life. Take your rights back. All your rights, all the time. Love you. Like, share, comment. Friends, family, community. Taking back America. One community at a time. Peace.